The auditorium thrummed with a hush that sucked the air from around my ears. Dust motes, illuminated by the stage lights, trembled in the yellow beam, floating, suspended in judgment. I clutched the microphone as if it were a lifebuoy and forced my eyes to scan past the rows upon rows of crossed arms and set jaws, the sea of expectation and disbelief. "So," I said, my voice snagging, I heard myself. Thin and wavering, I paused, feeling heat pool in my cheeks. Imagine a canvas, but instead of paint, it's built of data. Buenos Aires told through the stories in our numbers, our transit rhythms, our conversations, our silent habits. What if art could show us who we are mathematically? Someone in the third row, a man in a vest, face obscured by a wisp of silver hair, snorted. It was faint but unmistakable, the kind of sound people make when someone else's pain is their entertainment. I glanced at the judges' table, cold faces. Iska's Domnech glanced at his phone, his finger tapping, a metronome for my anxiety. I clicked my laptop's spacebar. A shimmer of polygons and pulses splashed onto the giant screen. An abstract map of the city, lines like veins, bursts of color marking midnight taxi rides, laughter by the river, breakups on the Plaza de Mayo. I'd poured weeks into the code, into finding poetry inside the city's spreadsheets. I tried to explain where the pattern met the human heart, but by then I could feel the chill growing in the audience. An older woman squinted, then nudged her neighbor and giggled. Farther up, two teenagers, probably interns, exchanged glances and covered their mouths. I got through 4 more slides, voice shrinking, legs gone numb, then Iskas cut me off. "It's beautiful," he said, offering nothing in his tone, "but is art from data worth funding? Can it be scaled? Is it even useful?" The last question hung like a noose. I tried to answer, but the words evaporated. My argument sounded naive even to me. I stood, sweating under my jacket, drowning quietly in the black ocean of silence. The pitch concluded. There was polite applause, hollow, perfunctory. When I walked off stage, I heard my uncle's voice in my mind, not even there but echoing all the same. "Data artist, that's not even a real job, Nina. It's like saying you're a professional dreamer." That night I took the train home under the city's sodium glow. My phone chimed with kind words that meant nothing except from my best friend Carla. She texted, "At least you tried, want to come for empanadas?" And my sister, "Mama says don't worry." But she looked upset. I turned off my phone and pressed my forehead to the cold window, trying to drift with the lurching rails, the outline of high buildings sweeping by in the dark. Every family gathering was its own gauntlet. In Buenos Aires, family is everywhere, around you, between you, sometimes above you. We gathered, as always, in my grandmother's apartment in Almagro, crammed on plastic chairs, sipping mate, walls heavy with old photographs. After my pitch flopped, my dream became a family joke. It started with small things. My cousin Camilla drew stick figures and called them data people. At asado, my uncles would ask, "So, painting with numbers. Will you do the beef next?" They weren't cruel exactly. Buenos Aires families can love you and mock you in the same breath, but there is a particular chill to the laughter when you become the punchline. I became La Artista Tecnologica, a phrase always accompanied by a wink or an eye roll. Once, Mama asked gently if I'd considered going back to study something practical, like medicine or engineering. She worried, she said. Papa just nodded quietly, as if seeing another small defeat fossilize on my shoulders. Outside my family, my community offered indifference, which was somehow worse than mockery. At open studios, galleries blinked at my portfolios with polite confusion. "Interesting," they said, "but who would buy this?" At meetups and hackathons, I was the artsy one, not quite a tech person, not a real artist either. My old friends started to drift. Some moved to Spain, others got married, busy with jobs that had neat, comprehensible titles. I found myself more often at home, code flickering into the night, confronting empty pizza boxes, surrounded by peaks and valleys of colored data, nights spent wishing I saw what they saw in me. But even in the silence of my room, my own anger kept me alive. There was an ache, a low glowing fuse. I remembered moments as a child, sketching the crowd in Plaza Dorigo, ears buzzing with tango and the flutter of tourists. I'd always wanted to tell the city's stories. "Who are we?" I asked the data the night the pixels. I survived by taking odd jobs. I coded websites for dentist offices, composed digital flyers for local theater groups, sold stock icons to people I'd never meet. I spent hours walking the city, letting its sounds fill me, the grind of buses, the soft, secret talk of abuelas in the park, even the distant, rusty wail of trains. Some nights perched outside Luna Park with a notebook, I scribbled patterns from crowd movements. I filled my old hard drive with experiments, fractals unfolding in subway timetables, nervous pulses of rain v. Traffic, the hidden cadence of soccer fans chanting in San Telmo. Every few months I'd apply to exhibits in Spain, in New York, in Sao Paulo. Rejection came swiftly. Too technical for the arts, one reviewer wrote. Not analytical enough for data science, another said. I started to believe the problem was me, a misfit untethered by any true discipline. Money grew tight. I moved back in with Mama and Papa, living in the same boxy bedroom where as a child I'd once glued colored paper on the ceiling and called it my data sky. Now the wallpaper was peeling and my pillow smelled of old dreams. Every Sunday at family lunch the jokes continued. Tell us, Sophie, can your art tell us who will win the lottery? Or maybe next time you'll win them over with an algorithm for making perfect empanadas, eh? It strung, but I nodded quietly. I learned to outlast the laughter. Things shifted in the dark folds of pandemic lockdowns. The city's pulse changed, the streets emptied. Like most, I lost small gigs. The world felt distant, except for the constant hum of Wi-Fi, the endless blue light. But that silence gave me space. I reimagined my city maps as living memorials, capturing absence, movement, and isolation. I built a piece titled Respiración, a pulsating, breathing map of Buenos Aires, drawn from anonymized cell phone pings and emergency calls. Neon rivers tensed and relaxed across boroughs, showing neighborhoods isolated, others breathing defiant solidarity. At the heart of the map, a constellation of light flared for each voice singing from a balcony at 8 p.m., an artifact of hope. Late one night, hungry with anxiety and dread, I uploaded Respiración to my dusty portfolio and tweeted about it. My following was tiny, mostly friends. Next morning, my inbox exploded. The post went viral. People saw themselves in the quiet breath of this digital Buenos Aires. They reached out, a nurse in Palermo whose block came alive in gold, a delivery driver who navigated the city by the patterns I'd mapped out, journalists called. Tech blogs wrote think pieces about Sophie Alba, la artista de datos de Buenos Aires. Overnight, my email overflowed with invitations, some real, some wild. The Centro Cultural Kirchner asked if I'd project a work onto their outer walls for a live reopening event. The offer was both surreal and solid. Deadlines, contract, actual payment. My old laptop sputtered. I worked sleepless hours at Mama's kitchen table, mapping the reopening's intricate, uncertain heartbeat into color and light. The code felt alive under my hands. The city told stories I'd never have heard at any family table. On the night of the Kirchner projection, the city pulsed with possibility. Autumn wind swept leaves along the avenue. My family came, Mama in her blue coat, Papa in his old hat, my sister Fabi and nosy cousin Camilla, all jostling for a view. I saw my uncle's arms folded, skeptical as ever. The plaza left room for 1,000 people, and by dusk it was packed. 100 cell phones lifted, faces flickering in LED glow. The projection began. Towers of data unfurling upward, threads of color braiding and snapping apart. Every eruption of light was fed by live city data, traffic, footfalls, even snippets of voices, anonymized and woven into sound that undulated through the speakers. It was as if the city was breathing on its own, undressed of cliché, raw and undeniable. The crowd stood hushed. I saw a mother pointing to a blue river in the data map, the path she took with her son to his first day of school that year. Street artists watched, eyes wide, recognizing their own fluorescent traces in the web of movement. People didn't speak, but I saw tears, quick and furtive. For the skeptics in my family, the silence was different now. There was no laughter or sideways glance, only their faces awash in reflected color, their eyes fixed on something they'd thought was meaningless, now made real and vast. After, I stood on the concrete beside my family. They surrounded me in a loose, uncertain circle. For a breathless second, no one said anything. Then my uncle Pedro, the loudest of the jokers, spoke first. No nos digest que seria así, Sophie, he said, voice low, not joking for once. You never told us it would be like this. I looked at him, at the same lines around his eyes, the hand that always gripped my shoulder too tight. I shrugged, feeling tears prick my eyelids. I tried, I said, voice nearly a whisper, uncertain if I should laugh or break. He looked away, then back, and to my shock he started to clap. It wasn't for show, he was proud. The others followed. Mama hugged me so hard I nearly tipped over. Fabi shook her head, grinning, almost angry at how proud she looked. I felt something old and tight relax inside my chest. Maybe it wasn't forgiveness. Maybe it was simply being seen, finally, not as a punchline, but as someone who had carried the city's silent stories forward and made them bloom. I didn't become rich, but doors stayed open. Invitations arrived from art festivals, universities, even a Silicon Valley startup. I led workshops in slouching classrooms, explaining to kids that art and numbers were not enemies. At an exhibit in Barcelona, I saw a woman cry in front of my work, saying she recognized her street, her family in the glowing arcs, but I still came home often. In Buenos Aires, old rhythms persist. I took the number 126 bus to Almagro for Sunday lunch, sitting once again at grandmother's table, the same wallpaper, the same mate, but now when someone cracked a joke about pintando con numeros, it was softer, tinged with pride, sometimes awe. Camilla, who once drew data stick people, now asked about scholarships in digital art. Mama brought clippings of articles she didn't understand but was eager for me to see. Papa, still quiet, would rest his calloused hand on mine while pouring the wine, wordlessly satisfied. The city outside kept humming, beautiful and anxious, forever in motion. I walked its streets feeling for the first time utterly at home in its shadows and light. I had wrestled with its skepticism, its laughter and its indifference, but I had also painted its breath in color, made its silence sing. So when strangers at panels asked, "How did you know your dream wasn't just ridiculous?" I remembered the mocking, the weight of indifference and hope, and the deep, silent resolve that lived inside me. I shrugged, smiling, and said, because deep down I never stopped listening to the city, and eventually she listened back.